Hi guys, so in today's video, we're going to be talking about Pluto. First, I'm going to give you a little bit of information about the archetype, what Pluto represents, what it represents in astrology, a little bit about the myth itself, and then at the end, I'm going to tell you what Pluto represents in each of the houses of the zodiac. So if you're interested in finding out what Pluto represents in your particular chart, make sure you stay until the end, and yeah, let's get into it. So Pluto is also associated, Pluto, another name for Pluto is Hades. Hades was the god of the underworld, so Pluto's the god of the underworld. So for that reason, Pluto is associated with diving deep. So wherever you have Pluto in your chart is an area of your life where you like to dive deep. And not only that, but is also an area of your life where you like to have control and power. Pluto is a very powerful planet. He's one of the malefics. So the malefics are the planets that are like mal means like evil or bad, negative. So the malefics are like Saturn, Mars, and Pluto. And they all get a bad rap because, you know, they have their bad side. Their bad side is pretty bad, but they also have their good side. So who doesn't like to have power, you know? Power is a good thing. But when taken to an extreme, it can be very negative because Pluto can be extremely like a control freak, and that is more of the dark side of Pluto. So the power that Pluto exerts is much deeper than physical power. Whereas physical power would be more like your sun, which is like your vitality, and Mars would be your physical power. Pluto is the kind of power that you exert psychologically, that other people don't really know what's going on, but there's something going on. That's the kind of power that Pluto exerts. And depending on how strong Pluto is placed in your chart, that's the kind of dark energy that you're going to emit, like below the surface. Pluto is all about being below the surface. Think about an iceberg and how on the outside it looks like rather like a little piece, and then there's like this big huge thing. I'll try to insert a picture of what I mean. So like an iceberg, you just see the tip, but there's like a big thing that is hiding beneath the surface. That is Pluto. So you see something very small on top, but then there's like this massive power underneath. That is Pluto in a nutshell. Pluto also represents endings and death, and if you want to get the silver lining of that, he also represents new beginnings. So whenever he is transiting your chart, he's a very slow moving planet. He takes like 230 some years to go around the whole zodiac. So it's just, if Pluto transits one of your personal planets, trust, I've been through this, you will feel it. And not only will you feel it, it will be life transforming and life altering and life changing, and not everybody gets to experience this. It's a once in a lifetime thing. So 235 years, you know? So the reason why I decided to choose Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, as the Pluto character is because he just seems like such a Pluto character to me. I hadn't looked at his chart before, and I just knew that he was going to have strong Pluto influence because, come on guys, he was in the KGB, and Russia is a very Pluto place because Russia is they have like the reputation and just, you know how every country has a particular like essence or just image that they portray. Russia represents that image of being like hard and tough. Like to Russia, like the US is like soft. And, you know, I'm from the US, you know, what can I say? And people in Russia are known for being like hard and tough and hardcore. So he's the freaking president of Russia. And not only that, but he was in the KGB, which I'm not a political person, so I'm not sure, but I feel like it's like something like the CIA or like the FBI. They do like secret covert operations. And he was part of the KGB. And now he's the freaking president of Russia. So that is so Pluto to me. And let's take a look at his chart so we can see why he's emitting so much Plutonic energy. I'm gonna be looking at my computer and I'm gonna pop up his chart here. So as we can see, he does have his ascendant is in Scorpio. So Scorpio is traditionally ruled by Mars, but later on when Pluto was discovered, he's co-ruled by Mars and Pluto. So his Venus is also in Scorpio. So he is leading with that Scorpio energy in his first house and that Venus. Not only that, but if you take a look at his chart, he also has Pluto conjunct his midheaven. So if we think about the midheaven, remember that the midheaven is the highest place in the chart. It is the heights that we hope to achieve in this life. And not only that, but I also like to call the midheaven like your perfectly curated like social media persona. So his perfectly curated social media persona is Pluto, because he has it in Leo. So Leo is a very royal and kingly sign, right? Leo is the king. So he is portraying that aristocratic energy, so that ruler energy with Pluto. So that is extremely powerful, and that is what we get to see not only on social media but through his reputation. That's how he is well known. And so yeah, that's, I mean, I don't think we have to go much deeper than that. That pretty much his ascendant in Scorpio and Pluto on his midheaven lets you know why he is such a strongly Plutonian person, and that's why I chose him. So let's take a look at some Putin quotes that can kind of tell us the kind of Pluto person that he is. He says, "The task of the government is not only to pour honey into a cup, but sometimes to give bitter medicine." That is so Pluto. So what is he saying? So he's saying that his role as the government is not just to give like honey in a cup. So not just give people sweetness. Sometimes you have to give bitter medicine, because bitter medicine, it tastes bad, but it transforms and it cures you. So that reminds me a lot of Pluto, and how Pluto does not sugarcoat things. Pluto wants to dive very deep and go into ugly and dark places and wants to transform, because remember that medicine heals, you know? So now let's take a look at what Pluto does in each of the houses of the chart. So if you have Pluto in the first house, then that dark, scorpionic, powerful, big dick energy is coming from your house of personality. So you just exude that. You might be the type of person that looks like you shouldn't mess with that person. They could sometimes have like intense eyes or an intense, powerful aura to them, and it doesn't put people off, but it could make people intimidated without you even trying. You might be the type of person that people say like, "Oh, when I met you, I thought you were such a bitch." That's the kind of like energy that you give off. Or like if you're a dude, I guess for guys, it might be more comfortable because men are more comfortable exerting power and women get criticized for it. You know, that's when, "Oh, I thought you were such a bitch." But men, it's just like, "Oh, they just seem like they have big dick energy." You know, this would be the placement for a female with big dick energy or a guy with big dick energy, because men and women can have big dick energy. If you have Pluto in the second house, then that power is coming into your house of resources and material possessions. So you are really concerned with having money and security and building that. And with Pluto there, even though it is a malefic planet, he brings a lot of strength. So person with Pluto in the second house can acquire a lot of wealth. If you have Pluto in the third house, then Pluto, that powerful planet and energy, is coming through your house of communication. So with that planet there, you might have a very powerful way of communicating. You might exert power on others, because remember that the third house is also the house of your daily surroundings, your daily life. So if you have Pluto there, you might be be controlling in your daily environment. So like with your coworkers, which that might be more than sixth house, but the people that you interact with on a daily basis, your neighbors, your siblings, anybody that is in your daily environment. And yeah, so just anybody that you chit chat with, you might be very probing with them. If you have Pluto in the fourth house, that means that you want to exert extreme control in your private home. So in the privacy of your own home, you are like the king in his castle, and you want to have extreme control there. And it could also mean that you really protect yourself, because you can be rather sensitive and you build like really strong walls around your self-esteem and like the deepest, most sensitive parts of yourself, and you want to keep others out. And nobody gets to know the most private things about yourself. You keep that very extremely private. Maybe just the people that you live with would know that. If you have Pluto in the fifth house, then this could mean that the way that you express yourself creatively, or the things that you do for fun, are rather deep. And you might be into occult things if you have Pluto in the fifth house, because that's the things that you do for fun. And with Pluto there, remember that Pluto likes to go deep. So that means that you wouldn't have like, the things that you do for fun wouldn't be very lighthearted. They would be more deep or spiritual. Pluto can be associated also with spirituality. If you have Pluto in the 6th house, then this would make you a very diligent worker. Pluto exerts control wherever he is found, and if you have him in your house of work, it's also work and illness. So this could possibly give you some illnesses, Pluto in the 6th house, and also a very strong work ethic when you have Pluto in the 6th house. Pluto in the 7th house would mean that you attract controlling partners, or you can be controlling partners. The 7th house is like kind of like a seesaw. I see it that way. And either sometimes you give it or sometimes you take it, whatever it is that you have in the 7th house. So sometimes you can give that Pluto and sometimes you can take it. But whatever the case may be, you attract people to you that bring this out in you and who have this quality as well. So that plutonic quality. You might have partners that are controlling or super jealous and want to be very possessive over you. That would be a Pluto in the 7th house. If you have Pluto in the 8th house, Pluto in the 8th house would be very comfortable. This would make you a very powerful person, but you wouldn't be very conscious of this energy because the 8th house is extremely hidden. It is hidden by you. So it is the things that you repress. So you repress this dark animalistic power that you have. But my friend, remember that what you resist persists. So I would strongly recommend you get in touch with that side of yourself, the side of yourself that wants to have control over others, that wants to exert power on others. Get to know that side of yourself because it's definitely there. You just are not very aware of it with it in the 8th house. If you have Pluto in the 9th house, well, also Pluto in the 8th house, before I forget, it could also be associated with, because the 8th house is also taboos. It's not only just things that you repress. We also repress taboos. We don't like to think about things that are, unpleasant. So with Pluto in the 8th house, you could have also suffered maybe, I don't want to say, hopefully not you, right? But people who suffer from sexual abuse, physical abuse, and all the like horrible things of life that are found in the 8th house with a Pluto there, that could mean that you might have suffered that kind of trauma. If you have Pluto in the 9th house, then you exert power when you relate to others in a greater spiritual sense. So you might be very, very strong in your religious or spiritual beliefs. And not only that, not only are you strong in them, but you want to convey these things to other people. And you might be a bit of you might be a little bit preachy, but not in a more psychological sense. So you might want to brainwash people, but it's not even conscious. Like, you're not trying to brainwash people, but you might have a really strong way of expressing your beliefs in a way that makes other people believe you. Like, you would be a really good cult leader with Pluto in the 9th house. Yeah. Like, people might want to follow you. The 9th house is the house of greater exploration, higher learning, and where you connect with the outer world through spirituality, through studies, right? So if you have Pluto there, then that is like you are that Pluto, and you bring and attract people to you through that avenue. So that's why I say that it would make you like a good cult leader if you have that there. Obviously with other things there, and why would you want to be a cult leader? I don't know. If you have Pluto in the 10th house, then that means that you want to exert power at work. Not only that, but you like to portray yourself as a very powerful person. And you might really get a lot of power in this life because you have Pluto there. And not only that, but when you meet people who are in authority, they somehow, like, you respect them and they respect you. But it's all unsaid with Pluto. It's all unsaid. It's all going on beneath the surface. So it's all deeply psychological. And yeah, you're a very powerful person at work, and you will have a strong reputation that lets others know that, like, you can get things done. And you would be really good at researching, because the 10th house is also associated with career. So Pluto like digs deep. So you would be a really good researcher. If you have researcher, detective, somebody who has to really like dig into something, that would be a really good thing for a person with Pluto in the 10th house. You have Pluto in the 11th house, then you exert power over the masses and your friends too, because remember that the 11th house is social groups, and also friends and hopes and dreams, right? So in your group of friends, you might be kind of bossy, and you might want to have control over your friends and your group of friends. Not only that, but if you are part of like, you know, social groups like vegans, or I always mention the vegans, I don't know why, but like in social groups and political parties or religious groups or any type of group, you would like to have some control. And you don't do this by saying like, hey, I want to be in control. You just exert that power beneath the surface. So psychologically, you set it up so that you're in control, and people just flock to you when you have Pluto in the 11th house. And this also works through the internet, because we are so socially connected online. People with Pluto in the 11th house can have that strong pull, like people are drawn to them because they just have that in them. If you have Pluto in the 12th house, then you don't really acknowledge this powerful force within you, but it is extremely strong, because Pluto is a really deep planet anyway, and the 12th house is a very deep house. It is the house where everything goes to finish, you know? It is the house of endings. And it is the house of the psyche and the unknown. So this is the kind of power that you could only access if you practice meditation, or you do some type of dream work, or you really work on your psyche basically. But if you take it out of there, if you take Pluto out of there, then Pluto is very strong. So this person can have psychic energy. Well, they do have psychic energy that is buried like deep within them, and this would be a really important thing to work on, because it would make them like deeply psychic. And not only that, but these people would have a lot of compassion for people who have experienced the darker things in life. So like people think of like prostitutes, prisoners, the people that everyone hates. This person would have some compassion for them, because they are so in tune with the world's suffering. And like, you know, like the world generally suffers, period, but then there's like some really dark things that no one likes to talk about. You know, like the kind of things that get you like, you know, demonetized on YouTube, those type of things. Then the person with Pluto in the 12th house has compassion for those types of themes and understanding, and is able to hold space for people who have suffered very deeply. Pluto in the 12th house. So guys, that was Pluto. I think this was my longest one. I don't know why. I might have to edit it. I hope that it helps you. And if you have any questions, make sure you leave them in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.